Hey, so I promised everybody a video on Monday again, a couple days late, I apologize, and I promised my message would be about motivation. So today's a little bit different. I just got my camera, repaired, so I had been recording on my laptop, but now that I got my camera back, I'm going to give this a try. So behind me I have our little play area, and I'm just going to tidy up quick and chat with you guys while I do so, since Sylvie's napping. Not too much, but if I don't tidy up, it just gets worse. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was how I personally motivated myself over the past few weeks. Okay, let me prop the camera up. Okay, so, like I said in the other video the other day, that, I like to keep things faith-based, and that's because I rely on prayer. Like, I just completely rely on prayer a lot when I'm struggling. And so this can apply to you if you do that as well. Otherwise, you get the general idea. If you don't choose prayer, I'm sure there's a replacement, like I'm not really familiar of other ways of, meditating if it's not prayer. But try to not dismiss this message just because it, doesn't apply to you specifically in prayer. Just try to take my prayer message, but in your own version, if that makes sense. Okay, so one of the things I try to do when I'm completely vulnerable and just at a loss and don't know what to do anymore, is I just, it's not easy. Like, sometimes I get too caught up in feeling all that negativity, that there's no hope, and that I just want to quit, and I just see darkness, Obviously, this is not easy for me to say. I hope you understand that. It's not easy for me to say, just pray, because there's been so many times where I didn't do that. But I finally came to my senses and turned to just prayer when I really needed it the most, and that was the most important thing. Like, maybe I should have done it a little bit more, so I didn't get to those really dark places, but at least when I really needed it the most, I finally did turn to prayer. And really, that's the only thing that's like completely transformed me the past few weeks.
A few moments later.
Okay, so I finished cleaning up, and now I'm just gonna sit and relax. I thought I heard the baby crying, so I got up real quick and stopped the video, but I'm gonna try to figure out where I left off. I'm gonna actually kind of backtrack a minute and explain to you what I mean by going in those dark places. So, for me personally, the past year has been a struggle, and so those struggles consisted of just not seeing clarity of why certain things happen, not seeing clarity of what my future is, and wanting to take control and do something about it, but feeling stuck. And I didn't appreciate why God had me in the place I'm in right now. And I kept trying to rush things. I kept wanting to, make it different. But I realized, in the past few weeks, that I need to just be present of where I am right now in order to grow, so that I can, understand why I'm going through things, and instead of like ignoring it and turning away from it, just face it, face where I'm at right now. And where I'm at is I'm back at my parents' house, living in their basement. We have an apartment. This is our little kitchen. We had this apartment made like 5 or 6 years ago. When we had our first kid, Declan, we made an apartment in my parents' house and lived here for a while. Then we moved to North Carolina, and we lived there for 2 years. Then my husband's job laid him off, and so we were going to stay in North Carolina and just find a new job, but we ended up coming home during that time. Like when he got laid off, it was summertime, so we're like, well, let's just use this time to go up to New York, visit family, and we'll go say hi to everybody since he has the time off. Then when we came here, I was pregnant with Sylvie, and so you know, I needed to seek care on figuring out like my birth plan pretty much. And I knew I really wanted to have a home birth. I wanted a home birth so bad, but I was extremely scared to do that in North Carolina. I wasn't getting the support. So a friend of mine recommended seeing her midwives, and at first I wasn't able to get an appointment with them. Long story short, I finally got to see them. I wasn't even sure if I was going to have a home birth. They considered like so many options with me, and fast forward, if I wanted to go through with using them, I was going to have to move back to New York. And in the meantime, my husband ended up getting like a job here in New York while we were visiting. And so we were like, okay, well, case closed. You know, why are we gonna go back to North Carolina when it just makes sense to come back here and get on our feet again? You know, stay with mom and dad, be with family while we have this baby. You know, our kids have been separated from their family, you know, extended family, grandparents, cousins, and all that. So they were really enjoying being back and being with everybody. And I thought it was a good time to kind of come back when I'm having, you know, another baby and just be around family and have the help and maybe hopefully get that birth experience that I was craving, that home birth, and with these midwives that I really trusted, and Kevin had a job, so we're like, okay, you know, we'll just come back. Well, I didn't expect to be back, you know, especially in the basement for so long, and we had issues with selling our home, and it was just a mess. Like everything was just upside down, other than the fact that I ended up being able to have a home birth, and you know, Kevin had, like, since we've been back, he's literally worked like 6 different jobs. So that kind of sucked, because the one job he'd started off with didn't ended up keeping, you know, their promises of what he, you know, needed as far as salary and everything. And so that didn't work out. So he had a temporary job, another temporary job. Now he has another job. He'd worked a bunch of side jobs. So for him, it's been a mess. And you know, it sucks. I missed my old house. We had bought a home and we made it our own, and I miss that. I miss all my friends. So all these little details kept bringing me down, and I was ignoring the big picture. The big picture is like, you know, there was a lot of blessings with our struggles, and yes, it does suck that we haven't gotten our own place yet. Yes, it sucks, you know, whatever. But I finally realized, like, I need to just be present. Like, all this stuff happened for a reason. I'm a big believer on that. Like, things happen for a reason. So instead of just, like, turning away from everything, I decided to just be present and be still and where we're at right now, and take this time to grow on my personal growth, because I keep saying, well, when I have my own house, then, you know, I can do yada yada yada. When I have myself put together, because I have my own home, I can be more organized. When I have blah blah. I kept saying when if, or if that, or, and I'm like, you know, this is the moment now that I need to try to figure these things out. Like my personal goals as a mom, a wife, a person, like whatever, now or never. Because if I keep coming up with like, well, it'll happen then, or it'll happen if, I felt like eventually it's never going to happen, because I don't know how long we're going to be living here for. You know, it's already been like a year and a half, and what if it's another year and a half? And then by then my kids are older, and I missed out on certain things because I thought, you know, we would be out of the house sooner. So I had to make do. I had to figure out a way to just be content and to grow now and not wait for it. So what I mean by, you know, sorry for that long story, is just I couldn't really justify skipping those details for you to understand, you know, what I meant by dark places. So the dark places meant, like, I just felt like I was stuck. I felt like, you know, everything sucked. I was playing that, like, poor me, like, I can't think of anything positive, like, we can't get organized and can't have things set up the way we want to because we don't have enough space in the basement. Well, you know, letting everything sit around and clutter and a huge mess and not setting up defined areas and making it work didn't help either. So I said, you know what, we need to just figure this out. Like, we have to just figure this out and make it work. We have to make it happen. So I just bought tons of bins and decluttered, put everything in bins, everything in bags, and finally just got out of that funk. And I've been wanting to start YouTube, but I kept saying, like, I haven't lost my baby weight. I don't have, you know, a routine set yet, so I can't do YouTube, because if I don't have my routine set, I'm not getting up and getting, you know, full on ready every morning and looking my best, so I don't want to hop on camera. Or, you know, nothing's appealing about filming in the basement. Like, I had every reason why I couldn't start YouTube. So I finally put that aside. And, you know, the play area I was just cleaning up are, you know, all the toys that have been thrown into a room in piles of clutter, and my kids, like, weren't even able to play with it for months because I couldn't bring myself to finally sit down and go through everything and set it up. And, you know, at one point it was set up, and another point it got, you know, huge mess. I wasn't keeping up with it, got so overwhelmed with everything, and then I just quit, and I just couldn't deal with it. So I got into dark places. Like, I just couldn't get myself to do anything. I just, every day was having a bad day. Every day I was miserable. Some days I would cry. Some days I would just, you know, like, text Kevin, like, you know, complaining or whatever. And it's like, I don't come off as that way, so a lot of the people that know me wouldn't expect, like, how, you know, depressed and miserable and sad I was. But I was so tired of feeling that way, and I was really worried that, you know, my kids would be affected by it. Like, I didn't want them seeing me sad. So I had to do something about it, and so I just kept praying. Like, I kept praying and declaring, like, I needed a change. And that's when it all happened a few weeks ago, when I made my first video about the fall leaves. Like, noticing those leaves change every year, like, those leaves change. So I had to make a change. Like, it's time for a new season. I've been in the same season for a year and a half of feeling depressed, and I was so over it. So I kept praying, like, I need to change, I need to change. I had to declare that I was going to make the effort to do the work. Like, you can pray about something or have hopes for something, journal about something, but then if you don't show up and actually do the work, it won't happen. So how did I do that? I had to sit there and seek help from people I like, know, and trust. There's a few mentors out there. I mean, I call them my mentors. I haven't worked with them as, you know, as them being my mentor, other than just chit-chatting with them here and there. But some people that I know really inspired me on positive thinking, and I read a couple of books. You know, I have The Power of Positive Thinking. I have the YouTube book that has been helping me, and then I have that book I have showed you, Make Something Good Today. And if this is all confusing, I really highly recommend watching my last two videos to kind of catch up. But my message out there is this: I needed to change my mental game. My mental game was so bad. I only saw darkness, only saw negative, only saw excuses all the time. So I, you know, on top of praying and realizing, praying and realizing that you, like, yourself, is the problem, you know, not to blame you, but, like, I wasn't purposely trying to do those things. Like, I had to give myself grace. Like, I couldn't just sit there blaming myself. But I did realize that, you know, I had to be the one to change. Like, you have to sit there and actually realize I couldn't wait on Kevin anymore. He works, like, and even when he ironically did have a week off because he hurt his back, like, I couldn't wait around for him to change me. Like, and it's such a hard thing to realize that, like, as much as you want a miracle to happen to you, you know, you have to be that miracle yourself. And so changing my negativity in my mind is how I really started motivating myself. I had to look at myself in the mirror and smile. I had to look at myself and, you know, talk to myself sometimes, and I had to tell myself, okay, yeah, you know, this really seems like a big pile of laundry. It really seems like a big pile of clutter. But if I just sit here and panic and get overwhelmed, it's still going to be here. So I have to figure out a way to do it. I have to take a deep breath and realize, like, why am I scared? Why do I have fear over this? And work through my thoughts. I had to be present. Like, you have to be present. Like, you can get completely overwhelmed, but stop when you do. Stop and say, okay, what's going on here? What's triggering these emotions? And talk to yourself out loud. Write it down. Whatever you got to do to work through it. And sit there, and I just would say, okay, I'm feeling like this because this is reminding me of XYZ. Figure out why I'm thinking about XYZ, deal with those emotions. Okay, we cross that off the list, move on. Now go back to the clutter. Okay, now I have to push through because I do want to be clean, right? That was my main goal, was to be cleaner, less clutter, have a routine, all that stuff, right? So I had to talk to myself through it every single day, and it's really hard to do, but I encourage you to just sit there and try to be present of every moment you start going down that road again. Stop yourself and ask yourself, like, what triggered this? And then instead of saying, oh, it's because of that, or deep down in your mind, you know it's because of something, but on the surface, you're, you know, just saying because it's too much for you to do. You just can't do it. Okay, you can do it. It's going to take a lot of work, but why don't you want to do it? Or why, you know, do you feel like you can't do it? Like, don't just turn away. Like, you got to go inward and figure out what's going on in the core. And I got to give thanks to Kiara from Bold Self, because she's the one that did this Facebook Live a few weeks ago about turning inward into yourself and going deep within and figuring out what's going on in your core, like in your inner core. Like, figure out those feelings and deal with it, and not just run away from fear. So that was huge. I will link her stuff below. Another person that I turn to often is Olivia Cagle. So she is a diastasis recti specialist. Like, so she helps moms that have the tummy separation, but she also relies on faith through her work, and she often talks about faith and helping moms that way. So I will link her up below. You know, just try to find a support system. Try to find those people, like how I mentioned Olivia Cagle and Kiara, to be your sort of mentor, even though if you're not like working with them. But when you're struggling, go onto their Instagram accounts or go onto somewhere where they're posting their content and try to find something that works for you. You know, pray, meditate, journal, all that stuff. And, you know, even if you are not a prayer type of person, don't be afraid to give it a try. Like, just give it a try, or just talk out loud to yourself, you know, figure it out. Like, you gotta just work through it step by step, baby steps. I mean, this has been the biggest transformation in the entire year and a half for me, the past few weeks. It's just being present and realizing my current mental state and trying to deal with it. I hope this is making sense. Like I said, I don't ever script these videos. These are just raw from the bottom of my heart. And, you know, hopefully I get better at this, because I feel like I kind of like jump all over the place. But if you are confused, you know, leave a comment below, and I will definitely have, you know, be happy to answer some questions or try to explain in more depth of like what I meant by certain things. And if you're looking for help on praying or help on whatever. Just don't be afraid to reach out. I'd love to help you out, and you know, we need to build this tribe. I think that a lot of us are going through some of the same things, and it's hard to talk about, but I really want to share my experience out there, because for one, like, I hate writing, and as much as I'm trying to get better at journaling, like I said, you know, this is basically my online journal. Like, I'm processing my thoughts right now as we speak. Like, this isn't just me talking, like, this is actually helping me talk about what's on my mind. So don't be afraid to do the same thing. But thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff, and I will see you again soon.